Why did you want to travel to Europe?
I wanted to travel to Europe to get a new perspective on the world. Everything outside of Fargo is so much different that I wanted to see how other people lived, how they acted around other people. And I mostly wanted to travel to all these different places that I've always wanted to travel to.
Michelle, what first made you want to go study abroad?
Well, originally I was actually in my accounting 200 class, and Dr. Wright had actually come in and talked to us about the fact of studying abroad for about 5 weeks or so. And that kind of is what sparked me to get interested in it. I guess at the time I never really thought about studying abroad because I thought that for a whole entire semester it'd be kind of crazy to be able to be there for an entire 4 months or so. But after he had explained that, I thought that would be really interesting, and that kind of sparked my interest.
Well, what was the final reason that made you want to commit?
Well, my final reason was, I guess, just the fact that I thought it'd be a great experience, and the fact that it's a life-changing experience. So I'm sure that at some points in your life you'll never be able to take an entire month and a week off to go and travel 12 countries in Europe. So that was kind of interesting.
So how did other people act around you as a tourist?
Well, they could definitely tell we were tourists. We carried around maps. We kind of didn't know where we were going most of the time. So they were pretty friendly. They helped us out. They asked us if we needed any help and directions or anything, and they pretty much told us what was good in the town, what was bad, where to stay away from. But most of all, they were really friendly.
Where was your first destination and what was it like?
Well, we flew from Fargo to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Brussels, Belgium. And for my first views, I guess it was just in the airport. So looking out, it was kind of like, oh, it looks like, a typical airport, I guess, until we got out on the bus, and then you started to see some of the structures, and that kind of made it more interesting, I guess, because it's so different from here, and you could tell that the architecture is a lot older. But it had that feeling of being at home to me, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
What was your living quarters like?
When we were in Belgium, we lived in flats for a while. We had about 1 to 2 roommates, depending, and then for most of the rest of the trip, we had lived in hotels with 1 roommate or so. And well, that was kind of interesting, I guess. But most of the time we had some privacy, but I enjoyed actually being with people. So just in case if there was ever something that went wrong or whatnot, you'd always have someone there. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Academically, how do you think it's helped you with your college career?
I think studying for the 1 week was just, you needed to learn everything. It just put into perspective that you needed to get this stuff down, do it, and then you can travel. So if you get your stuff done, you get to have fun afterwards.
How much schoolwork was actually involved in the trip?
Probably about a week and a half or so into it, I guess, for actual paperwork. We were in a classroom almost every day for about 3 hours, and then we had Dr. Wright as our professor, and then we also had a couple foreign professors that told us more about the European Union. And then after that week and a half or so, we had an exam, and then for the rest of the trip, we toured around, and he kind of gave us points for us paying attention to the tours and being engaged in what we were doing.
Do you think your perspective on American culture changed when you went overseas?
I definitely think my perspective changed. There was a lot of different people there, from different cultures, everything, that you just got it at one time, and it was just crazy.
What was the most exciting event on your trip?
Oh, that's kind of a tough one. But my favorite event, I guess, was paragliding in the Swiss Alps. That was by far one of my favorite events, I guess. It was definitely a life-changing experience. I have never done anything like that before. And it was something on my bucket list, actually, so I got to check it off, which is kind of neat, especially got to do it in the Swiss Alps. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What was your favorite activity while studying abroad?
I think my favorite activity would be going to Interlaken, Switzerland. Being right in the middle of the Swiss Alps was just amazing. It's undescribable. It's breathtaking views. And when we got to go to the top of Europe, they call it, it was just amazing. The views, the snow-covered mountaintops, just everything.
Well, tell me one story about yourself that happened on the trip.
One funny thing that happened with me, well, originally when we first started classes, for that first week or so, Dr. Wright had explained to us a couple of words in different languages, like how to say thank you or please. I couldn't quite grasp some of those terms, so that kind of made it a little bit challenging when others were talking to me. So I didn't realize I kept saying thank you in English to others, and they look at me like, you speak English, instead of saying French or Flemish or something.
What was your favorite part about the trip then?
My favorite part of the trip was traveling to all these different countries. We got to go, me personally, I got to go to 12 different countries, and just traveling to all of them was just spectacular. Like seeing the Eiffel Tower, I just see those in movies, and being there was just awesome. And I got to go to the Vatican City, just everything about that was breathtaking. Just being everywhere was awesome.
Well, tell me one thing that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and tell your kids about later in life.
I guess to tell my kids someday, I guess, is to say that if they ever have the opportunity to study abroad, whether it's for 5 weeks, a semester, or for an entire year, I suggest that they do it. It was probably one of the most exciting experiences I've ever had in my life. I don't think I'll ever be able to have something like that ever happen in my life again, so it was very, very worthwhile.
And what do you think was the most valuable thing you learned while traveling abroad?
I think the most valuable thing I learned was to not take people, judge them when you see them. Like, most people have a story behind them, and you have to get to know them to understand it.
Tell me about walking around in London.
In London? It was interesting. It was very busy, and there was a lot of traffic, and I guess you have to really watch when there's different sidewalks when you're walking, because the traffic goes opposite, and you tend to look to the right, but you're supposed to look to the left or something. That was one of the hardest things. Other than that, I mean, it was just very packed. I mean, it wasn't really anything new, I guess, but.
Comment on some of the things you've experienced, such as the food. Did you find the food new and different?
The food was a little bit different. I had sushi for my first time. It was interesting, but there's just more flavors there. It just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so rich.
Did you make any lifelong trips because of the trip, do you suppose?
Lifelong friends?
Yeah, I did actually. I've made a couple of them, and I'm sure that a lot of us will still keep in contact with that. But there's definitely some that I spent quite a bit of time with that I know it will be lifetime friends.
Was there a favorite thing you ate?
I loved French fries and mayo. They call them frites. Frites and mayo. It was amazing. People say that looked disgusting, but they don't know until they try it. It was delicious.
Yeah.
What did you learn from your experience?
Basically the fact that I look at the culture, different types of cultures in Europe and then the culture in the United States and how different they are. And the fact that even though that there's these different countries, they all are kind of similar. And so in order for a business or for other types of companies to be able to work in a European environment, you have to really adapt to the culture. And it's not just something that that we can just look at, I guess. That's almost like common sense in a way, but to actually experience how that actually feels is totally different. So that's kind of an interesting piece to that. But.
So do you plan to go again, or do you plan to go on another study abroad trip?
If I had the opportunity, I definitely would, but I would love to travel there again. If I got a job opportunity, I would definitely go back.
Was it a life-changing experience for you?
Yes, definitely. The fact that I got to see 12 different countries, that was kind of the cool thing. Some of the countries I actually really wanted to see were Italy and probably Switzerland. But the fact that I got to see a lot more and see some different places and then compare the cultures to them, I thought that was very, very interesting. And the fact is, I ended up liking Ireland the most of any of them, and I didn't think it would be one of my favorites. I guess it's just that homey feeling, and then it was just so beautiful. I'm a nature person, so that was a huge part of that. And then the people spoke English, so I felt like that was kind of a relief for a little while to have that. And the people just were very friendly. You could just go around and they would be willing to help you or be willing to provide you with whatever you needed or anything like that, which I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
Do you think your life has been changed by studying abroad?
Yes, I do, definitely. I think my life has been changed that I don't take people for granted. I help people if they need to be helped. Like if they're struggling with something, like I struggled over there, people helped me and wanted to help. And so I think that helping people is good.
What would you tell somebody if they were thinking about studying abroad? What would you tell them?
I tell them straight up, just do it. It's so worth it. You will never regret it. It was one of the best things I've ever decided to do, and I know that if they do it, they will never ever regret ever doing it, and they'll make some of the best friends that they've ever had.
Anything else you really enjoyed over there?
Just going to different countries that I only see on TV, knowing that I'm actually here, and like learning about everything over there, and going with like 13 amazing people that just I'll be friends with forever. Just awesome.
Any other comments about any other aspect of the trip?
It's just a life-changing experience. That's all I can really say. I mean, it's hard to explain it in words, so that's really, really neat.
So you're glad you went?
Yes, very much so.
So if you had one piece of advice for others who are thinking of studying abroad, what would it be?
Just do it. You won't regret it. Like, it's the best experience of my life. I've never done anything like it, and I will never regret it.